Welcome to the Sacred Couch, a safe space, a healing place for the souls of Black folks and other folks seeking wellness. Many of the issues that adversely impact our lives as African Americans today did not begin with us. They began with our violent upheaval, deportation, and human trafficking through the Middle Passage, and continued through slavery, Jim Crow, segregation, discrimination, and degradation. The systemic effects of racism and sexism and other forms of injustice continue to shape our thoughts, self-concepts, relationships, and overall well-being. Because our story is unique, we must reclaim our narratives. Our challenges are also unique. Therefore, our pathways to healing must be authentic. We can't use the same systems and tools that were used to oppress us for centuries to liberate us today. Therefore, the Sacred Couch was uniquely created as an antidote to this long-standing challenge to our mental health, psychological wellness, and spiritual formation. The couch was made for us by us. Here we synergistically blend the scientific and the sacred, the psychological and the prophetic, the socio-relational and the spiritual. I am Dr. S. Janine Hyman, psychologist, theologian, and a grateful Black woman. Come on in, take a load off, relax. Welcome to the Sacred Couch. Welcome to the Sacred Couch. I am your host, Dr. S. Janine Hyman. I am a PhD level psychologist with over 30 years in mental health and over 30 some years in academia, teaching psychology, theology. Also, I've been in ministry 45 years. I can't believe I'm that old. I must have started when I was one. But we wanted to, as we've said in our intro, have something for us by us, where we can kind of begin to research our own narratives and deal with our own issues that are unbothered by people trying to assess us as they are. Certainly, the pathology of the oppressed cannot be the same pathology of the oppressor. And so, for us, a spiritual people, we synergistically bring together the scientific and the sacred. We bring together the psychological and the prophetic. And we bring together the socio-relational and the spiritual. And bring with it our African spirituality to be able to help improve the human condition. If we are going to be helped, we must help ourselves. And we must help ourselves before we can really help others. So, welcome to the couch. Y'all know the disclaimer. This is not a substitute for therapy, although it is a safe space and a therapeutic room. This is not to replace therapy. This is for psychoeducational purposes and a little entertainment, because you know we're going to do a little laughing, right? And to bring us into some sense of spiritual formation, so that we can, both spiritually and psychologically, they can't be separated, begin to heal and to grow and to ascend and to evolve into the greatest people that we were destined to be, both individually and collectively. And so we welcome you tonight, not just to the psychologist and the psychiatrist couch, but to the sacred couch. And so it's good to see everybody on tonight. As you are signing in, do me a favor. Please like. If you're here, please like. Please like, love, whatever. Share if you think there are other people that need the couch. Some of us, really, really, if you're Black in America and you're born into 400 plus years of oppression and racism and sexism, don't be afraid to give yourself the gift of therapy. Because we don't even know what normalcy is, because we were born into it, generations into it. So if you know someone who would benefit, if you, especially if you know other people who are deconstructing, they are beginning to discover or to enjoy further the African spirituality, they need a little something. Our mental health workers, our teachers, our preachers, whoever, we all, all have come through years of oppression. All right? So like, tag, and share for me. And eventually, on our regular stuff, this is going to go away. Okay? So we need you, if you would, please, kind sir, kind ma'am, if you would, please go to our Sacred Couch YouTube channel. It's got its own YouTube channel, Sacred Couch, and we want to push most of this there, and then leave our other pages for ministry, blah blah, regular stuff. But we want to definitely have this as a space to itself eventually. And so, if you would, for me, go to the Sacred Couch and go to our channel, and please subscribe, like, and subscribe. All right. And even there, if you're on YouTube, share. All right. Share. All right. Share and share alike. So we say good evening to all of you that are signing in. Amen. We praise God for you. And thank you for sharing this time with us. Amen. And being able to share with us. This is our stuff. Even the people that got a couch need a couch. And so I am grateful on this day that my spiritual father took his flight some 34 years ago, something like that, maybe 35. But today is the 4th of August. Wait, quickly, in his 50s, was singing and shouting in the pulpit and just left us devastated. But I'm grateful that he is in that great cloud of witnesses. And those of us who are mourning the graduation and transition of Bishop Jeanette Williams White, and part of our clan family, we are still feeling that. It's made me very tired. And thank y'all who are praying for my parents. My father is still hospitalized, and we lost an aunt this week. And so I have needed the couch myself. But I'm grateful to those who shaped me, particularly my spiritual father, the late Bishop James Ferguson Brown. Very big into pastoral care and counseling, and teaching. And so we're grateful for that. We're grateful for those who are at rest in the cloud. My mentor of 35 years, the late Dr. Florence Saunders Farley, who taught me all things Black, all things psychology, and all things spiritual. I didn't say Christian or church. I say spiritual. So a lot of what you hear from me, you will hear the ancestors speaking, because they have taught me well. They have taught me well. And so you will get the benefit of my being able to be tutored and mentored. And I remember, some of you may appreciate this, some of you may think it was horrible. But I remember my first year at Virginia State as a graduate student in clinical psych. That was a 3-year program. My MDiv program was a 3-year program. And it took me 12 years just to get the PhD and then the THD. And so it was my first time, we're in the lab learning how to write psychological reports. And she said, there's a file cabinet right there, all of you. I'm not going to teach you how to write the report. I'm going to let the work of past students teach you. That is just so black. And so we were in the lab, laughing and playing, and everybody popping gum, drinking they pop, they sodas. And I'm in the file cabinet, and they said, we don't know what this mess is. What is this? How do we know the good ones from the bad ones? We did not know. So I had to pull out all of these psychological reports. Some of them were 15, 20 years old on a typewriter, had to pull them out. And so they was like, we don't know what that mess is. Well, you know me, I just kept digging and digging and digging and finally got my report together. Dr. Farley comes into class and say, okay, who's ready to present their first psychological report? And tell us how you interpreted all of those tests and blah, blah, blah. Nobody raised their hand. So I got up and did mine. And I'm telling you, she ripped me to shreds. And then after she ripped me to shreds, said, actually, Miss Hyman, that was fairly good. Your village has taught you, but I have one problem with you. I said, yes, ma'am. Why do you know this? And the other 13, I think it was 13, 14 of you, do not. So I wasn't going to tell y'all. I wasn't going to tell. I didn't come from that culture. Snitches get stitches. I was not going to tell that they just wasn't doing their work, laughing and joking and popping gum and drinking and eating chips and carrying on. And so I got busted for that. This is after I got ripped to shreds in front of the whole class. The shreds didn't matter because they ain't know they didn't know what she was talking about either. Uh, and so after class, I was like, I did my work. I followed instructions. I worked it out. I stayed here till after dark after they left, looking at all of these psychological reports over the years and trying to determine what I'm supposed to do now, how to interpret these tests that we gave them, how to write it up. I don't know. So why did I get in trouble? And she said, didn't you tell me you went to Catholic school? Yes, ma'am. How many black folks are at that school? I said, probably less than 200. And didn't you tell me before you went over there to Virginia Union, you went over there to VCU, to the white folk school? When I went to Virginia Commonwealth University in 1979, oh, God, I'm old, they were 11% minority. I thought minority meant just black. Tell you how dumb I was. Talking about people writing down narrative and labeling us. It meant everybody that was not white, 11%. And she said, and so you went over there to that white folks school? Yes, ma'am. How long you go over there? 3 years. Yeah, okay. Then I transferred to HBCU some years later after I dropped out. Uh, yeah, I'm going to drop out. And so she said, let me tell you what the problem is. Those of you who are old school D9, you'll understand this. She said, I gave the instruction to the class. Gave the instruction to the class. Amen. Is that my cousin? I don't know. That might be my cousin, y'all. Gave the instruction to the class. And I told you all to learn this. You learned it, but you didn't make sure your colleagues learned it. Okay, they're not doing their work. I am. She said, we don't do that over here. We don't have competition. We don't have individuality. We don't do individualism over here. We're family. This is the black school. We are family. And if you know it, they better know it because you have a responsibility to your people. And I was like, oh, it's like, wow. I said, well, what is that? She said, I'm going to get mine, you get yours. That kind of individualism, that kind of competitive edge. And she said, I don't have to worry about teaching you. You're brilliant. I don't worry about teaching you. She said, and I'm going to teach you how to be a psychologist. She said, but this I'm going to do. I said, yes, ma'am. She said, my job is to get every bit of that whiteness out of you. And I started to get a little offended, because when you're a little lighter, people got jokes and stuff like that. People have assumptions that make absolutely no sense because of this whole colorism piece. And so I started and the spirit says, shut your mouth. You don't know nothing that lady talking about. And as we went on, I became like a daughter. She had no children, no family here. I became a daughter. She called me child. I called her mama. All right. And shortly before she died, didn't know she was on her way out of here. I said, Mama, am I doing all right? She said, that she's not a Bible scholar. She didn't do Christian church because she said it was too pathological to my people. But this is what she said to me. She said, I've been watching you now for over 34 years. I've been seeing you preaching and throwing your hair and sweating. I've watched you struggle. I've watched you fight for everything when it should have been given to you by virtue of your intellect and your work. She said, you're just a good human being. I said, oh, anybody never told me I was a good human being. She ain't said good girl. She ain't said good preacher. She ain't said good student. She said, you're just a good human being. Two things she said to me. I said, Mama, okay, I'm doing all right then. She said, yes, ma'am. And I'm well pleased with you. And of course, I got scared. I was like, Lord, that sounds like what the Lord said to Jesus. I hope she didn't give me a check out here. And really, within about 3 or 4 months, it's got something and it took her out. I was blessed to be one of her major caretakers, still getting that wisdom, that bedside wisdom on her way out of here. I got it recorded. It's too painful for me to watch it. But I got some things recorded, see? So I said, Mama, this is what I want to know. I said, did you get the white out of me? She said, baby, it's gone. It's gone. And she said, I'm telling you, I'm well pleased with you. And this other thing, she said, child, you are good to people. You're just good to people, even when they're not good to you. You're good to people. And then she said this, now I need you to be good to yourself. And I said, Mama, I don't even know what is that, what that look like. I need you to be good to yourself. Some of her parting last words, really, some of her parting last words. And so part of my thing is to give ancestrally the wisdom, the training, the 35 years of mentoring. If I hadn't had it, I wouldn't have survived my own process. And I certainly wouldn't have survived being a black educated woman who preaches. Now, she didn't preach no way. But she even critiqued my preaching to say, yeah, you all right. And to leave me with those words, people, we must learn to be as good to ourselves as we are to others. I'll leave that with you. I'll leave that with you. Plus, I'm going to get some of that stuff out of y'all. You ain't get that on no couch, nowhere. Now I like talking about it. And have the spiritual formation that we need. All right? So we promised y'all last time we've been doing this whole thing on Black Rage. All right? What it looks like between males and females, how it shows up. We did triggers last week. The feedback was good, very good. Amen. And so I said, shall I finish this or we going on? This? Y'all was like, no, 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 do one more, do one more, do one more, do one more, do one more. And so we promised you that we're going to do that. And we're going to look at Black Rage again, but we're going to look at how that looks when we have it with ourselves. When we have it with ourselves. Okay? When we have it with ourselves. Okay, Evangelist, you got jokes. I see that. All right. So we're going to look at it just a little bit because I want us to see what does this kind of look like. You know what I mean? What does this kind of look like? And we talked about rage being anger turned outward, most of the time almost misdirected from its source. We can't, I mean, historically, we can't come against whole systems. We can't retaliate. We can't show anger to the oppressor, to the racist, to the sexist, because we have a history and we have a preponderance of evidence that we are punished, maimed, killed, blackballed, shut down, whatever, whenever we do. So it is not safe to do that among people who are oppressive, who are not healthy themselves, or else they wouldn't be oppressive. All right? If they were healthy, they would be promoting justice, even among their own people. All right? So many times we have to turn that anger outward onto a target that we think either is safe to do that and ain't gonna do nothing to us, or is just gonna love us despite our faults, or a target where we bully or hurt somebody, or a target where we hurt things. Yeah, yeah. Or we're going to what we call displace that aggression onto something else or somebody else. Okay, makes sense? All right, let's roll. Okay, so rage is anger turned outward. For many of us, anger turned inward results in depression, guilt, and shame. Okay, and being very angry at ourselves secretly. And sometimes when we're that way, if we're a little narcissistic, Sean, if we're a little narcissistic or we are a borderline personality type, we will project like our oppressor has done. We will project the way we feel about ourselves onto others. And we'll say they the problem when we really angry at ourselves and it's us. All right. So we talked a good deal about projection as a defense mechanism, so we don't have to look at our own ugliness. All right, because the ego can't handle it. All right. There's a photograph that ought to break your heart if you sit with it and look at it long enough. Some of you may remember this from school or something, but a small black child, I think she was maybe 3 or 4 years old. Blessings, Bishop. Good to see you, precious. A small black child, maybe 3 or 4 years old. This is in the 40s, all right? 3 or 4 years old, sits at a table with 2 dolls in front of her. All right, some of you may remember this. Okay, this place anger goes where? It goes any place that you think is safe to do it, that you won't get penalized for doing it. So it may go against the children. You go off on the children, short fuse with the children. Spouses do it to each other all the time. Some people do it to property. Some people do it to unsuspecting bystanders. They just flip off. Uh, we see preachers do it in pulpits. Oh, yeah. All right. So it's going to go to someone that we think is safe enough to do that, because you know you can't do that against white folks and not be punished. Okay. That makes sense. All right. So they sit these 2 doll babies in front of this 4-year-old. Okay. And the researcher asked her, it could have been more than 4. The researcher asked her which doll is nice, which doll is pretty, which doll is good. She points again, pretty, this doll. Which doll do you think is really a good doll? It's good, this one. Which doll is nice? This one. You know the 2 dolls they had in front of her? They had a black doll and they had a white doll. And over again, a 3 or 4-year-old child who still is in cognitive development, whose brain is still in development, who is still in the early parts of social and psychosocial development, This baby at 3 or 4 years old ain't even been to school yet. Points to over and over again the white doll. Then the researcher asked her one last question. Which doll looks like you? And the child who just told you the white doll is the good one, the white doll is the pretty one, the white doll is the nice one, the white doll is the preferred one, has to lay her small little teeny hand on a black doll. Some of those children cried. They just started crying. Some of them muted. Okay? Their fight, flight, freeze, fawn response. They just froze. They muted. Okay? So we begin to see in the 40s how self-hatred, how white preference instead of yourself is in the children as early as 3 and 4 years old. Now, if that's there as children, and a whole lot of our parents bought us white dolls. My mama said, bought me white dolls. She found out about that experience. She said, get them white dolls out of here. She started buying me black dolls. They still look white. They just was chocolate. They still had straight hair. And still had light eyes and little nose and things like that. But we began to understand and say, wait a minute. No, 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 no. So this is in us, okay? At 3 and 4 years old, before we are fully socialized, before we are fully miseducated, before we are before social media, before most of us in the 40s ain't even had no TV. How about that? Ain't had no TV. All right. And those of us in the 50s and 60s and early 70s with them black and white TVs. You see what I'm saying? Now, if that was like that then, can you imagine we have children with tablets in their hands, children with phones in their hands, sucking up all that radiation on their developing brains at 4 and 5 years old. Okay. And so with that being said, can you imagine if that was in the 40s, how much white preference we think is pretty, nice, submitted if you're a woman, amicable. That's already in us, people. Kenneth and Mamie Clark, the two black psychologists who designed that study, watch a nation's poison work itself all the way down to children who were still too young to read. What they documented really was not just some defect in the children, it was a wound, a generational wound. Because remember now, no phones, no tablets, no whole lot of TV in the 40s and the 50s. Come on. And they still had it. This was a wound generationally that a country had inflicted and has inflicted for years. The Supreme Court cited their work in Brown versus the Board of Education because even the law could not deny what those dolls revealed. A 3-year-old had already learned to prefer the very thing built to disparage her, to discredit her, to deny her, to reject her, to devalue her, and to reject the reflection of her own face and African features. So on this last installment tonight on Black Rage, because we're going into the pathology of poverty the rest of this month as promised, we want to look directly at that wound. We're going to call that wound self-hate and internalized oppression. Go look at where it comes from, how it operates. And so many of us have learned to shrink, literally shrink and assimilate and perform to the place where we are acceptable. Okay? As Joy DeGruy says, Black folks really suffer from the illusion, Kiana, of inclusion. So we shrink and assimilate and perform an acceptability that was never going to be granted. It's never going to be granted because at the end of the day, you still okay. And when it comes to them or you, even if you think you're equal and you make it into that, we have seen it, OJ. We have seen it. We've seen it. We've seen it. We've seen it. Across the board, we've seen it. That you can go to jail for being cruel to dogs, but you can put your knee on necks and you can get rid of a black boy out there by the waters and may not ever have to pay. All right. It says something to us. Okay? And this is how we begin to almost renounce ourselves, certain parts of ourselves. So let's look a little bit at the historical machinery, if you will, of self-hate. Okay? Understand first that self-hate and oppressed people is not a natural condition. It is a manufactured one. I'm not saying that over time it does not affect the DNA. We know epigenetically trauma travels in the DNA. We know epigenetically that even certain harsh words and experiences can find their way in the DNA. And so when it's in the DNA and it is in the external conditions and it is learned, it is then fully manifested. Okay? All right? This thing was manufactured on purpose, y'all. And it works like a well-oiled machine even today. And they're making billions of dollars, billions and trillions off of our self-hate. You don't believe it? Look up how many billion of dollars we spend on hair, color, you need a little bit right here on the gray, straightening, makeup, lashes that don't look real, hair down past our insights in the back of our buttocks that we can sit on. Now, granted, some of us had people of native descent. I had a great-grandmother, literally, that plait. Y'all know them plaits with that big wavy hair. Plait hung all the way down to her butt. All right? So we understand that, but most of us don't look like that. And we got to have all of that mimicking white women on TV and on media who been had tracks in their hair. Oh, okay. Just look it up. You'll see. See, this is a system that intended to hold people in bondage for centuries. They could not legally continue to rely on chains alone. Chains can actually be broken. Revolts can happen. A few of them did. Nat Turner, a few of them did. You know, Harriet Tubman, who they call Black Moses. Well, the first Moses was black anyway. How about that? How about that? Freeing those people and said, I could have freed so many more if they had understood, if they had comprehended, if they knew they were slaves, property. I could have freed so many more if they had known they were slaves. All right? So a more durable strategy is to move to not the prison outside, the chains outside, the plantation outside, the burning crosses outside, the fires outside, the lynchings outside, the massacres outside, the drownings and the water hoses outside. But a more durable way to do that, where your fingerprints ain't on a smoking gun, is to move the prison and the plantation inside and to arrange the conditions so that oppressed people actually begin to police and doubt and despise themselves without your direct supervision. Okay? That actual genius of American racial oppression, and I use the word genius the way you would describe a well-built machine, a well-built diabolical machination of a weapon. And it worked and still is working. Okay? The machinery, the spirit of it, the movement of it, the poison of it, looking like pure water, ran through every channel at once. It stripped African people of languages, name, lineage, religion, spirituality, uh, 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 communication. So the story of who you were before the ship became unreachable. The only story left was the one that your enslaver told you. The only spirituality left after they beat it out of you was the religion and the doctrine that your slave masters gave us. Fritz Fanon, F-A-N, I think it's, yeah, Fanon, one N, named the result precisely. The colonized, cut off from their own culture and saturated in the colonizers, begin to see themselves through the eyes of their colonizer. They begin to see themselves through the eyes backwards of their oppressors. They begin to see themselves through the eyes of misogynists, through the eyes of bullies, through the eyes of debauchery, through the eyes, if you will, of barbaric people who then projected their barbarism and their savagery onto us. Okay? Y'all heard of Sigmund Freud. Well, Anna Freud, y'all can thank Dr. Frawley for this. Anna Freud gave the broader mechanism a clinical name, identification with the aggressor. She wasn't really talking about us, but identification with the aggressor. Some of us actually have, what would they call that syndrome? I can't even think of the name of it. I'm so tired. Lord, it's a syndrome they have when you've been hijacked by somebody and they've kept you captive and all kinds of stuff, or they kept you in a cult and abused you. And when you come out, you're defending them and you're taking up for them and you know you're singing their praises. Yeah, it's not good. But this identification with the aggressor is the way a person under sustained threat, which we continue to be even today, under sustained threat, they begin to manage their trauma and their terror and their fear by taking on the values and even the gaze of the one who threatened them. So the way that I make sure that I don't trigger you and piss you off is I become so much like you that I'm no threat to you. Thank you, Reginald. I'm just out of it. Stockholm Syndrome. I kept saying begin with a S. Thank you so very much, sir. Stockholm Syndrome, thank you. Matter of fact, Dr. Gardner did a whole session with us in our class. We did a class on some of this stuff and talked about Stockholm Syndrome. Okay? Yeah, everybody's getting it. Thank y'all. Because I'm telling you, it's as a Bishop, I'm trying not to cry. As Bishop White used to say, child, that thing went right on out my head. All right. Thank y'all. That's it. Stockholm Syndrome. All right. They ain't the only ones got that. Because I'm telling you, we will take up for white folks. If I start talking about white people in church and I'm preaching liberation theology, and I start talking about us, yeah, come on, tell it, Bishop. I start talking about white folks, I'm telling the truth on both groups. But God forbid if there's one or two of them in there, people looking. They're so uncomfortable. This is how deep this runs, even in our churches. Okay? But you can't, listen, you cannot fight. Listen to me. You cannot fight what you have been taught to admire. You can't rebut or rebel what you have been taught to revere. Oh, that's so good. I hope I remember that. That's so good. Put that in the chat in case I forget it. All right? You cannot fight what you have been taught to admire. You can't. You can't rebel or revolt against what or who you have been trained and conditioned to revere, to protect, not just yourselves, but to protect your oppressor. Okay? You cannot love a self you have been trained to see as the problem. You cannot love a self that you have been trained to see as the problem, or as never enough, or as never good enough. Lord have mercy. Come on. Thank you, Mildred. Y'all write this in the chat because I might forget it. That was good. Okay? Jordan grew in her work again. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. Kind of parallels of PTSD. Is our diagnostic for us. Documents how these adaptations transmit across generations, not as inherited memory, but inherited behavior. Survival strategies that once kept the body alive, black bodies alive on a plantation, on their own land, where they were burning crosses and burning stuff. During Jim Crow, that kept us alive during fires and hoses and coming in churches shooting up kings and dad and mama and all that. These survival strategies that kept black bodies alive got handed to the children and the grandchildren who no longer knew why they carried that. Okay? A mother tells her dark-skinned daughter, stay out the sunshine, you're going to get too black. Put some sunscreen on your face if you go outside. Don't stay out there too long. The family that treats lighter children, I don't know nothing about this, because all we got was picked on. Okay, neither one of my parents light, but me and my brother are. Neither one of them, they're the lightest in their family, but they're not light. The rest of their, all them siblings, dark skinned. All right. But they would say, well, you know, she thinks she cute because she lighter. Or they would say, if you was a dark man, get you a light woman. You don't want no black children. Get your woman with some straight hair. Get your man with some good hair. You don't want no children with no nappy hair. I mean, we're already rejecting the children before we even come together. We are biologically constructing what we want our children to be. Lord have mercy. That is so deep. That is so deep. uh, you know, uh, uh, child, I don't know. Lord, she got that good stuff. We got that good stuff. She got that good one. You know, my dad and them got that. From my great grandmama, I missed it. Praise the Lord. But they got that good stuff. One praise is reserved for good hair, and disdain reserved for kinky hair. All right, we call it. Guess she got bad hair. Ooh, what did God create that was bad? Let's start right there. What did God create that was bad? Cause all hair started with texture. Straight hair came from a recessive gene. Lord Jesus have mercy. Oh Lord. All right. So before the children got here, we're doing biological engineering so the children wouldn't be nappy. Why we can't be happy being nappy? Somebody else say, because that jank hurt. Lord have mercy. I would cry. My hair was so nappy, y'all. Oh, if you say, I can't believe your hair that nappy, you like stupid. Just stupid. Stupid. Okay? God didn't create nothing that was bad. Where did we get this? We biologically engineering children. So, number one, we could admire them, and so that they would not reap the ugliness of being black. Okay? Come on now. See, this why James Brown the prophet say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Put your bad self. Say it loud. Oh, I'm black and I'm proud. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Yes, sir. That's why that was almost like medicine to us. Say it loud. Black and I'm proud. Okay? So when the children came here, they done inherited a mirror that was handed to them already cracked, already lying, already dirty, already contaminated. And this is the way they saw themselves. All right, let's move right along, move right along. I'm going to get a little bit deeper in, okay? How self-hate operates in the psyche. Let's look at that. Let's look at it. Let's look at it. Remember now, anger turned inward becomes depression, guilt, shame, and condemnation. Anger turned inward. Okay. Another black psychologist, William Cross, mapped the interior of this so we can see it a little more clearly. Okay, we want to see it clearly. Okay, he described a starting condition he called pre-encounter. Pre-encounter. Okay, and within that he made a distinction that I want you to hold on to tonight. Okay, because it names two things that people constantly confuse. There is racial self-hatred, the active devaluing, the active ashamedness, if you want to. I just made up a word. But the active devaluing of one's blackness. And then there is the motive or the drive for acceptance and protection that he calls the assimilation drive. The pull to adopt mainstream white, a white frame, whitewashed white frame, okay, as the measure of worth and the measure of belonging. Let me do it again. This assimilation drive, the motive, the push, the internal mechanism to escape punishment, to escape rejection, to escape discrimination, to escape being devalued, dejected, and rejected. All right, disapproved of. All right, there's a drive. It's a defense mechanism. All right, to adopt a mainstream white frame as the measure or the rubric of worth, value, and belonging. Okay? We use our oppressor, listen to me good. We use our oppressor as the measuring stick for everything, for beauty. Okay? Again, look up how much black people spend in the beauty industry and how much we give the Asian market for hair and beauty products that ain't even made for us. We do it. I got one right around the corner. I go right there, give me a little eyebrow pencil, give me a little hair stuff. Come on. The rest is Mary Kay. I am a Mary Kay consultant. Amen. We do this. Ah, yeah. The white gaze. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just mentioned it a little while ago. I want us to see it. I want us to understand it. All right? Look at where our money is going. We are making everybody wealthy to look less like ourselves than to be ourselves. And we will do it even when we can't make ends meet. We ain't gonna do no whole lot looking bad if we can help it now. Come on now, y'all know. Y'all know. All right. So when we talk about this, because people kind of confuse the two. They're related, but they're not quite the same. Knowing the difference is part of our healing. Self-hatred sounds kind of like a verdict, like something's wrong with me. Something wrong with my people. Something wrong with black people. I can't stand niggas. All kind. This is crazy. Okay, it's the stuff listen to what come out your mouth about your own people. Even if it don't come out your mouth when you're looking and seeing the sisters walking in their pajamas and thongs and bonnets. What you saying out your mouth? Okay. So the self-hatred kind of sounds kind of like a verdict. Something wrong with me. Something wrong with us. Something's wrong with what we are, the way we are, and who we are. The assimilation drive sounds kind of like a strategy. If I can become acceptable enough, it's a defense mechanism. If I can become acceptable enough, proper enough, quiet enough, polished enough, if I can change my vernacular and I can start talking like them and using white inflection and saying statements like they're questions, because when you ask a question, it's supposed to, your voice goes up at the end. But when you do a statement, your voice is supposed to go down at the end. But white people say statements and their voice goes up at the end. And when we do white intonation, white inflection, I know how to do all of it because I went to school with them. I learned to talk very white. It's like two languages. I have the white language, intonation. I have the black language, and I got my hood. You know what I mean? All right. So we bilingual. They took our language, but we still bilingual. Everybody else gets to be called bilingual. They come here and they got accents and can't speak good English either. Only we get characterized as dumb. But we're the only people and the natives who had their language stolen. Okay? So, we're going to try to be polished enough, use the white inflection enough, and bob and weave. Yeah. I did this in my class, y'all. I like to have a few examples. They're funny. I did this in my class. I was teaching at Stratford University. And I says, okay, I'm going to show you. We talk about somebody said, well, they say I talk wide. But it's not that I talk wide. I'm from New Jersey. I talk proper. I said, sweetness, I could take you to 51st and Sansom in West Philadelphia so fast, and I can start talking it fast, faster than you can. Okay? There's a difference in proper and white. So I had blacks and whites in my class. So I'm going to put a simple word on the board. T-O-O. Now, I want a white person to pronounce T-O-O. I said, okay, pronounce this. Two. I said, okay, somebody black pronounce T-O-O. Two. Two. O-O. Ooh. White pronounce it till. T-E-W-W-W-W-W. What? And y'all said, we can't talk? Till. So then I put the word correct on the board. And I said, okay, I need a white person to do this. Give me a white female. Pronounce this word. C-O-R-R-E-C-T. Correct. I said, all right, give me a black brother. Pronounce this. Correct. Okay, give me somebody else black. Correct. All right? All right. Where you from? New York. Pronounce this. Correct. Okay. Where you from? What? Pronounce this. Cracked. Cracked? What is cracked? Cracked. What the world? I say, y'all say we can't talk. K-R-A-C-T. Cracked. Cracked. So there is such a thing, people. Just watch a lot of our black women and our black men who are on CNN, MSNBC. A lot of them If you just watch them, some of them I love. Oprah still sound black. Michelle Obama still sound black. You know what I'm saying? The woman king lady, the woman king lady. I love that lady. Lord, that lady can act. She still sound black. She look black. All right. But we will. I did it. I did it. I did it. I know how to do it. Yeah. I did it so you can be accepted. And I remember being in Catholic school, I think it was maybe in the seventh or eighth grade. And I didn't even know this was an insult. They were like, you don't talk like a regular black person. We think you're pretty cool for a nigger. I was like, gee, thanks. Dumb as a. This is why mama had to get the black, Dr. Farley, the white out me. What? They felt free enough to say that to me, and I was too dumb to know the difference. Okay? And so we begin to assimilate. We don't want to be different. We don't want to be the stereotype. You don't talk like a regular black person. What the San Hill is a regular black person, and you're pretty cool to be a nigger. And I went, thanks. All of this stuff, y'all, they're indications that white is right, that white is preferred. The whiter it is, even though the blacker your skin, the whiter your features, the whiter your inflection, the whiter your body movement and rhythm, the more you are accepted and you're not stereotypically like they say black people are. You're not those black people. Okay? So if I can do that and be unthreatening enough, then I will be safe and they will let me in. Joy DeRue again. The illusion of inclusion. Okay? It's called code switching. You soften your hair and your speech and your presence. You work twice as hard for half the recognition, and you call it excellence when often it is fear, or sometimes it is anger driven. Most of us were brought up that way. You got to be twice as good to be considered equal. Okay, I just show the hand pass up. All right, the way I took mine out was show them up and piss them off. All right, but many of us turn that into perfectionism, and perfectionism is unhealthy because it keeps moving the bar every time you get to something, and it gives you a reason to always miss the bar by this much and then be down on yourself because you're not perfect enough. You're not good enough. Okay? And so you will code switch. That's what we call it. You manage yourself so as not to become the stereotype, not to be the loud one, not to be the angry one, not to be the lazy one, not to be whatever, not to be the violent one, not to be the mouthy one, all of that. Okay, not to be ghetto, not to be niggerish, not to be. You see what I'm saying? This is part of why some of us are so bougie, bougie, les bourgeois en français. But we do not live among the bourgeois. We aspire to be as the bourgeois and to be with the bourgeois and not a part of who we are and who we came out of. Okay? So it can become perfectionistic, making you continually to miss the mark and to find a reason to be hard on yourself and to be hard on others. Okay? You manage yourself so well that you think that they're going to take you and accept you because you're non-threatening. You're acceptable, right? The vigilance required to police yourself that closely every day in every room that you go in and out of, on the street and the store, it's our own slow, hemorrhaging internal bleed. And here's where this closes the loop on everything we studied in this series. You cannot assimilate your way out of a system built to exclude you. Put that in the chat for me. You cannot, I cannot, you cannot assimilate your way out of a system, of an institution, of a system built to exclude you and to devalue you, regardless of how acceptable you make yourself. So the effort fails over and over again. And if you finally make it in, you almost have to renounce your whole self in order to stay there. And then you have to live under the oppression, under the pressure of not slipping and being too black, not slipping and clapping back when they say something because they're so comfortable around you as a non-Negro, but still a nigger, that they say what they want to say, like that baby said that to me in the 7th or 8th grade. I went home and looked at, you know how we have those memorabilia books. I went and looked at my memorabilia book. They're writing that stuff all in my book. You're one cool nigger. You're such a sweetheart. We love you. I saw that. I said, I must have been out my doggone mind. Adolescence. And it's all around me. So I came home playing. Have you never been mellow? Have you never tried to find the comfort from inside you? I come home singing some Olivia Newton-John. And play that funky music, white boy. I mean, I'm singing all of it. Elton John, the Average White Band. I'm singing all of that. My mama come home from teaching in the hood and said, if you don't cut that mess off in this house, you better. You done send me to school with them 8-9 hours a day, surrounded by them 8-9 hours a day, indoctrinated Catholically all day, white priests, white nuns, white everything all day. And then I'm supposed to come home and play black music. All right. See? Them white folks, they can straighten you out because you're getting too rowdy. Underneath it all, the anger you were never allowed to feel, the anger you were never allowed to express, the white folks you were never allowed to go off, the teachers you were never allowed to go off on, the systems you were never allowed to really go off in, the anger you feel at being asked to erase yourself for a safety net that never catches you, a safety valve that never opens. You got to swallow that and swallow it until it becomes the rage we have spent this whole series naming. Self-hate is rage turned inward. Rage is self-hate that finally turns to face the world and most times is misdirected. Okay? All right. How we doing? I found my time. All right. Come on. Sean said, don't come for my 80s music. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I'm like, you put me in white all day, and then when I come home and do white, we black in this house. Turn that off. I'm like, this okay. Oh, black water, keep on rolling. Mississippi moon, won't you keep on shining on? Oh, black water, keep on rolling. Oh, yeah, I just knew all that band to get some funky Dixieland. Pretty mama gonna take me by the hand. Some of y'all know it. Some of y'all know this. Uh-huh. See? Some of y'all got it. You know it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I want you to really begin thinking about some of the things that you have done to assimilate, to guard yourself, to blend, to fit in at any time in your life. Some of us are still doing it. I'm telling you, the hair industry love us, like for real. What is this stuff? That crazy stuff be popping up on my screen. All right. All right. So as the late Dr. Willie Hamilton says, are we understanding this? Huh? Are we understanding this? All right. Let's dig in a little deeper. Can you consider what this does to a black child? She been getting this. He been getting this. They know this at 3. Now the not enoughness is not just what the world says. Now we're going to put it in the Bible. And we're going to make it what God says. That's theological violence. And it was deliberate. The Hebrew witness the enslavers were quoting from does not begin the human at wretchedness. It began in the creation account. Isn't that something? God said what he made was good. By the time we finished theologizing it, I made up another word. Everything he had was good. Made us, he said, we're very good. Now, by the time we finish adopting stories from different creation narratives from different people, different groups, different time periods, and we even get into one story, now all of a sudden, people, we have a fall and we are wretched. So we started singing. We started singing too. I can't, where does mess get up here? All right, I'm trying to. There we go. We started singing too. Amazing Grace to save a wretch like me. You better understand who wrote that. And you better understand how they saw themselves. But because we use them for everything, they are the model for everything. That is pathological. This is pathological as it gets. We can't get it from ourselves. We can't get it from one another. God can't show up in our interaction and show up in a dialogue and teach us something about God's self that we can't even find in a book. All right? God called us Tov Me'od, exceedingly good. Okay? He says the human is made in a divine image without a single exception. For maleness, femaleness, nothing else. So this self-hating theology was an imperial overlay put on top of the text to serve the plantation, not the testimony of the text itself. When you were taught that God preferred a whiteness you never could reach, you were handed a forgery. When Jesus became white, and then your white Jesus became your God, you were handed a forgery. Something you could never be, something you could never look like. All right? Are we understanding this? Huh? Okay. That's where we are with it. Okay? We're handed a forgery. The original says you were good, very good, from the beginning and made in the image, and no one gets to revoke that. No one gets to reduce that. No one gets to devalue that. No one gets to put that at the bottom of a hierarchy and rank it from the bottom up and rank themselves from the top up. It is demonic. It is diabolical. It is a wicked machination. Oh my God. And we wrap it up in Jesus. And then we make all of the melanated world, the more melanated world, worship an image that looks like our colonizer. Worship and depend on and pray to an image that looks like your oppressor, like your hater. Women, you out of it twice because it's male and it's white. Oh my goodness. Lord, I can't see no comments and it's driving me bananas. I don't know where this little screen came from. Oh, hell. I can't see them. Let me see if I can see. They put them up. They're so small I can't see it. Uh-huh. Yep. John Newton, Amazing Grace. Yes, ma'am. All right. Trying to do some of this because it's not showing me my comments anymore. And I like to see y'all, what y'all are saying. All right. So let's bring it on in a little bit. We only got a few minutes left. Nobody gets to undo what God has done. It's very good. Even your oppressor. Still got very good in them. Maybe buried under lies. Because guess what? They've been lied to for 400 years too. Some of them really don't mean no harm. They've been lied to too. They've been given privilege they didn't ask for. Born into it. Handed it. It's all throughout the culture. It's all in our education system. White books. Greek mythology. Western Civ. Come on. Come on. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. So how do we help you tonight? Which is what I want to actually do a little bit of. All right? Cross we talked about did not end his map at the pre-encounter. with this assimilation drive and internalized stuff. He showed that people move, that the journey runs from self-degradation towards self-pride. Say it loud. I'm black and all right? Towards self-pride. And that movement is real and available. We need to begin the road to it. Women, in particular, we have these, I want this off my screen. We have these, got an email up. What kind of mess? That's crazy. All right. Anyway, I can't fix it. I can't fix it. All right. But you know, we women in particular, you know, we get it in the Bible all the time. We're punished for being angry. We're stereotyped, negatively troped for being angry. And nobody never had to say nothing about God being angry, unless it's other people that say, why would a loving God be angry? Why would a loving God allow injustice, unrighteousness? Why would a loving God have no laws in the cosmos that have consequences for the good if you keep them, and consequences for the bad inherently wired into the laws if you violate them? Even your mama and your daddy will not just allow, if a parent really loves you, they're not going to allow you to hurt yourself. They're not going to allow you to violate the values and the principles of that family. They're not going to allow you in your childhood to become a monster untamable in your adulthood. Whom the Lord loves, he corrects. He corrects. Even if that correction has to come on the couch, it's an act of love. Because you're fearfully and wonderfully made. God did not make you inferior. It's going to take a minute to get from this self-degradation, self-hate, internalized oppression to self-pride. Now that we're moving towards it, some of our more colonized mentalities and some of those who are advocates for whiteness come against us and call it idolatrous. Some of them got the nerve to even call themselves prophets. Yeah, you're prophet of the empire. Used to manage us so that we won't get liberated. And so they even call this black pride idolatrous, but they don't ever call white supremacy, white arrogance, white pride, white nationalism. They don't call that nothing. So it begins with an encounter. Some moments crack the inherited mirror, and it shows you that the mirror was lying, and the person who cracked it had a vested interest in your thinking smaller of yourselves and your people. They had an interest in it. For some of us, that's a hard experience of racism that finally makes the system visible. When you throw that mirror down and say, I can't look in that narrative don't belong to me. That narrative wasn't made for us. That narrative wasn't made by us. That narrative actually was made in their favor. Who stood to benefit from the narrative was not the person that the narrative or the people that the narrative was about. Who stood to benefit from the narrative was the one who wrote it and lied and erased and replaced and changed and interpolated and transliterated scripture, all kinds of stuff. Okay? For some of us, that's a hard experience of racism. It is. It takes a hard experience. It takes a hard experience. I remember telling Dr. Farley about one of my loved ones. I said, we done put that child in private school all her life, and she ain't never around no black people. And I'm like, she don't shave on her arm or nothing. She does, with them, I said, I don't understand it. What happened? Y'all put her and immersed her in whiteness. And you wounded her with the same whiteness you thought would make her better. I said, Lord, have mercy. And she said, it's going to take some white people hurting her real bad for her to see clearly. For others, it may be an awakening. A book, a teacher, or a couch, a safe room like this one. Don't despise the crack in the mirror. The crack is actually the beginning of freedom because you cannot heal a wound you can't see. Immerse yourself in the story that was stolen, the actual history of African peoples before the shit, the actual history of African spirituality before proselytization and colonization and Christianization and westernization. The story of kingdoms and queendoms, of scholarship and sacred traditions, of our resiliency even after we got over here. Start to read Black. Go back to Carter G. Woodson's The Miseducation of the Negro. Get Joy DeGruy. Get some of these authors we mentioned tonight. You cannot love a self you have never even been introduced to. Some of you ain't never even been introduced to the God that's in you. You've never been introduced to the God thing that you are, that was birthed into this dysfunctional system and even our dysfunctional families. You've never been introduced to the God thing, the God essence, the God nature wrapped in your black skin. You ain't never been introduced to that because it was born into exile, born into to oppression. We don't know normalcy because we never seen it for over 400 years. Okay? Ask God, ask your elders. Let's go on a campaign to meet ourselves. What did God speak here and put in a black womb? My. Fearfully and wonderfully made. All right? You catch the inherited verdict as it runs through your head and runs through your head about your people. When you hear something must be wrong with what I am. Hair not good enough, looks not good enough, face not good enough, body not good enough. I mean, black girls and Hispanic black girls going across the border to get tails. Really? To get breast lifts. We don't like nothing. We don't like nothing. Don't worry, they don't like a whole lot either. That's why they be trying to tan and get their lips. So they're doing that. So now we're doing that. They're doing that to look like us, and we're doing that. That's our model for everything. I'm telling you, it's pathological. So when you hear that, answer it with evidence rather than to obey it. Ask deliberately, whose eyes am I seeing myself through right now? As I speak, as I do, as I in relationship, whose eyes am I seeing this relationship through? Do I really see God in those around me? One of the reasons why we have so much guilt and shame is because we are set to performance. We're set to performance for appraisal, for approval, for acceptability. Okay? This ain't gonna save us. The harder we work on it, the farther we get from it. It's worth working to free yourself to be your actual self. Be yourself so the room adjusts to you, not you adjust to the room. I'm still working on that. Those of you who have a high frequency, you got a lot of presence and a lot of energy. You walk in the room, people be like this. I just walk in the room. I'm 5'8", can't miss my hair. As I walk in the room, I say you have such a presence. Stately, all kinds of stuff. Okay, whatever it is. All right, whatever it is. You walk in the room, people be like this. They're formulating opinions. All I did was walk in the room. Many times, men and women of God, we will dumb ourselves down to make it easy for ourselves. We will dumb ourselves down to make it easy for others who may not have the capacity to hold us, the capacity to value us, the capacity to nurture us, the capacity to appreciate us. We will dumb ourselves down to make peace, but the peace is not inside of you. The anger is there. And then you say, why did I do that again? Why did I tell them yes again? Why didn't I say no? Why did I say that? Why did I put my... See, now you're beating yourself up. Why? Is because we need to make it easy. Start seeing this, that I'm going to be so much me. And the more me that I am that God made, the higher my frequency. I'm going to fight. It's a fight. It's a fight. It's a fight of faith. I'm going to fight for my own freedom. I'm going to fight to be me. It's the fight of your life. You're going to always be evolving, growing, and becoming unless you get stuck and you're trying to be a product. But if you're trying to go through processes that increase your value, increase your wealth, increase your usability, you're going to be in evolutions and learning cycles for the rest of your life. Get used to the room having to adjust to you being authentically you. Stop performing so much. We ain't gonna get all of that out of us, though, But be aware of how much you're performing for other people. Set down an acceptability that's never going to save you. Okay? But let them adjust to you. Let them see sometimes little by little who you are and what you have to offer. And stop forcing yourself, your goodness on people who don't have the capacity to even see themselves. If they can't see internally, if they can't look inside of themselves, if they don't have any insight, again, they're not going to be able to see into you, and you will never have into me see. We fear intimacy when the product we are on the outside is far different from the product that we have failed to process inside. When the image outside doesn't meet the image inside. Your worth was settled before you got here, before you did anything, before you performed anything, before God formed you. God knew you how? Because you're an extension of the invisible God. This can't be earned, and it really can't be revoked. It's only revoked when you receive that you're not enough, when you believe that you're not enough, when you listen to the tape going on in your head that is always trying to prove to you, I'm right. None of this is going to happen alone. This is the entire reason why the couch exists. The wound was inflicted collectively, generationally, theologically, socially, educationally, institutionally, systemically, handing it from generation to generation. Therefore, it must heal collectively, in community, in room where the old mirror gets named and identified as the lie it was created to be. And a truer reflection gets held up in its face. I am the image of the invisible God. I must catch up with myself. I must grow into myself. I was made more than enough, but I was born into a system that says I ain't enough. And so I must overcome evil by doing good, not just by being good for people, but I must overcome evil by being good, by being mindful, by being grateful, by being kind, by being humble, by serving in places where my giftedness and my particularity make a difference in the collective. I must become the best of myself, not a version, because versions change. I must become the best of myself at every level, throughout every trial, every tribulation, every persecution, every screw up. I am entitled to errors because myself is still in progress. I am entitled to growing pangs and pains, because myself is catching up with myself. I'm entitled to flawed behavior because I was born into a flawed world, a flawed family, a flawed system, flawed religion, flawed education, flawed everything. Everything around me flawed except nature. So I spend time in nature, grounding myself, finding my breath, breathing in deeply, holding my breath in my temple, letting my breath go, letting my breath go into the breath that's already out here, letting my CO2 go back into the air. Come on here, where my heartbeat and my rhythm is in sync with the rhythm of the universe. I'm out in the sun, letting melanation and vitamin D and all other kinds of healing properties fix my body, my mind, and my soul. I'm somewhere meditating, shutting down the YouTube, shutting down the tablets, shutting down all of this radiation and vibration and blue lights that's going into my body that is actually doing something to my brain. I'm giving my brain a rest. I go down by the water. I enjoy God in the shower. Why? Because the voice of the Lord is upon many waters. There's something about water and flow that is life. Water and flow brings life through every womb. Water and flow brings aquatic life to us. Water and flow gives us hydration. Water and flow. God is the God of many waters. There's something about the water, small things that you can do. When those voices come in your head and say, now, why did you do that? Say, I'm glad you asked, because I'm going to get to the root of my motive. And when I get to the root of my motive, that is going to be a corrective for me. I'm going to stop hating on me and hating on my people, because I've made myself God in the place of God, and I hate what God loves, and then I love what God hates. Oh my goodness. And so those of you who pray, pray to love what God loves and to hate what God hates. Pray to be where God is and to withdraw yourself from where God is not. Pray to bless what God is blessing and to withdraw and to curse what God is cursing. Pray to be in sync with your breath, in sync with your creator, in sync with life, in sync with creation, in sync with the stars and the galaxies. Even if you can't see them all, we're connected to them all. One blood, one blood, one blood, one blood. We ain't no minority. That's their narrative. So hear me as I close this series. My time is definitely up. The child in that photograph that kept choosing the white doll and then having to claim the black one as her own face, that child wasn't just inherently broken. She was wounded by a country that needed her, convinced that her own story, her own people, her own features, her own blackness, her own melanin was inferior. To convince her of her own smallness so that she would elevate whiteness to a status God ain't even given. She was so wounded by a country that needed her, convinced of her own smallness, so she would never rise to claim who she is, what she is, and what was hers. The same country is still handing out that same cracked mirror. Tonight, we throw the mirror down. You were good from the beginning. You were made in the very image. Every shade of you, every texture of you, every nap, every straight, every robust chest, every robust behind, every flat behind, every knock knee, every bold knee. Come on here. Every big foot, every cute foot, every knuckle, every knock. All of it. Fearfully and wonderfully made for what God created you to do. When you renounce that, you will never fully excel in your God-given assignment. You may be successful by every stretch of the imagination. But what would it profit a man to gain the system and lose his black soul? The self you were taught to hate is the same self that they envy, they resent, and they fear. And coming back home to your spirituality, coming back home to your naturalness, your authenticity, and thanking your maker for what he made, flaws you inherited, flaws you self-inflicted, flaws they inflicted, and all. It's all a part of your process to becomingness. Coming home is simply a long walk back, Sankofa, to the maker that you came from, and aligning yourself with what that maker said about you before anyone else got a chance to lie. You've been watching The Sacred Couch. Ask your maker to show you any areas of guilt and shame. One of the things that we do, and this is both a plus for us, but it can be a minor if it is not, a minus if it is not balanced. We have a higher standard for ourselves than the people we know are savage. We have a higher standard for ourselves. It's good because it says they're not like us. But when we become like them, we'll take that same standard and condemn ourselves. We'll take the same Bible and condemn ourselves, not correct ourselves. We'll take that same standard, the same Bible, that same stuff. When we internalize that same junk, then that becomes the rubric by which we measure other people. And when you don't measure up, you either going to idolize people that don't really deserve that place, or you're going to be hard on people who deserve the same grace and favor. We all deserve to become. Give yourself space to grow. Give yourself space to learn. Give yourself space and people who can bring correction. Correction is not rejection. Correction is a tool against future rejection. I just said something right there. All right? You good. You just need to make some more decisions that prove who you are rather than that try to prove who and what you are not. Thank you for tuning in to The Sacred Couch. All right? We're going to even show you how little self-hate and rage affect your money, affect your wealth. So if the Lord says the same, I don't know, I got all these funerals and stuff, I don't know. But if the Lord says the same, we're going to focus the rest of our month on our money and our wealth and how poverty becomes pathological and how it is a huge block to faith and favor. Okay? I hope this has been helpful to you. I do. And I hope you have gained some insight. All right? Use some of those tools, little simple stuff, natural stuff. Turn stuff off. Give yourself an hour of silence. Take a nap. Do something. Sing your prayer. Tell yourself the truth now. Tell your black self the truth. But sing your praises. We celebrate every victory, every little bit of progress. I want you to celebrate, all right? Because you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And that my soul knoweth right well. Well, beloved, my assignment here tonight is up, but our journey together shall continue. Thanks for sharing this special time and safe space with us here on the sacred couch. Remember, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Your divinity is of God. It's perfect. It's our humanity that needs healing, repair, and restoration. This is a spiritual process. It takes time. It takes work. But I declare, becoming your authentic self is worth both the work and the wait. Until next time, beloved, continue reclaiming your narrative, recovering your authenticity, and realigning with the divine. I am Dr. S. Janine Hyman. Take care of yourselves. Take care of one another. We'll see you back here next week on the Sacred Couch.